Ukraine, a country in Eastern Europe, shares borders with both Russia and the European Union. This geographical placement makes it a bridge between East and West, but also a point of geopolitical tension. Russia, Ukraine's massive neighbor to the east, has long played a significant role in Ukrainian history and politics. The relationship between these two nations is complex and fraught with historical baggage. In 2014, this intricate relationship took a dramatic turn. Conflict erupted, sending shockwaves through the region and the world. To understand the ongoing war in Ukraine, we need to take a closer look at the historical backdrop that set the stage for this conflict. This essay will delve into the history between these two nations, examining the key events that led to the current crisis. It will also explore the global impact of the war and the immense human cost borne by the people of Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia share deep historical and cultural ties. Both nations trace their roots back to the East Slavic civilization. For centuries, parts of modern-day Ukraine were under the rule of various empires, including the Russian Empire. Later, under the Soviet Union, Ukraine became a Soviet republic. In 1954, a pivotal event occurred. The Crimean Peninsula, historically part of Russia, was transferred to Ukraine. This decision, made within the Soviet Union, seemed insignificant at the time. But it would later become a major point of contention between the two nations. Despite their shared history, tensions between Ukraine and Russia began to simmer, particularly after the fall of the Soviet Union. Ukraine declared its independence in 1991, marking a turning point in their relationship. Following independence, Ukraine found itself caught between the West and Russia, facing pressure to align with one or the other. The 2004 presidential election became a flashpoint. Pro-Russian candidate Viktor Yanukovych was declared the winner amidst allegations of widespread voter fraud. The Ukrainian people took to the streets in what became known as the Orange Revolution. This mass protest movement, fueled by a desire for democracy and a pro-European path, forced a rerun of the election. Pro-Western Viktor Yushchenko emerged victorious. The Orange Revolution demonstrated the growing divide within Ukrainian society. It also highlighted the delicate balance of power between Russia and the West in the region. The events of 2004 set the stage for further tension and conflict in the years to come. The Crimean Peninsula, with its strategic location on the Black Sea, became a focal point of the escalating tensions between Ukraine and Russia. Russia maintained a naval base in Sevastopol, Crimea, even after Ukraine's independence. This presence fueled concerns in Moscow about losing access to this strategically important port. In 2014, following the Euromaidan protests and the removal of Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, Russia made its move. Exploiting the political instability in Ukraine, Russian troops, without insignia, took control of key locations in Crimea. A hastily organized referendum was held, widely considered illegitimate by the international community. The results overwhelmingly favored joining Russia. Moscow quickly annexed Crimea, claiming it as Russian territory. This act drew international condemnation and marked a turning point in the conflict. The Donbas War, a prelude to full-scale conflict. The annexation of Crimea emboldened pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine, particularly in the Donbas region. The Donbas, with its large Russian-speaking population and industrial significance, became the next battleground. Armed separatists, allegedly backed by Russia, seized government buildings and declared independence from Ukraine. A war erupted between the Ukrainian government forces and the separatists. The war in Donbas, characterized by trench warfare and heavy artillery shelling, dragged on for years. It claimed thousands of lives, displaced millions, and left a trail of destruction. Despite numerous attempts at ceasefires and negotiations, the conflict remained unresolved, simmering beneath the surface. Pause. February 2022 and the world in shock. In the early hours of February 24, 2022, the world watched in disbelief as Russian forces launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Explosions rocked major cities, including the capital Kyiv, as Russian troops advanced on multiple fronts. Russian President Vladimir Putin justified the invasion as a special military operation to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, claims widely dismissed by the international community as baseless. The invasion sent shockwaves around the world. Governments, organizations, and individuals condemned the act of aggression, expressing solidarity with Ukraine. The invasion marked a significant escalation of the conflict, transforming it from a regional crisis into a global concern with far-reaching implications. Global impact. Echoes of war. The war in Ukraine has had a profound global impact, extending far beyond the borders of the two countries directly involved. The conflict has triggered a humanitarian crisis, with millions of Ukrainians displaced both internally and seeking refuge in neighboring countries. Economically, the war has disrupted global supply chains, particularly for energy and food, leading to rising prices and shortages. The conflict has also heightened geopolitical tensions, particularly between Russia and the West. The war has tested alliances and forced countries to re-evaluate their relationships with both Russia and Ukraine. It has also raised questions about the future of global security and the role of international institutions in resolving conflicts. The human cost stories of resilience and loss. Behind the headlines and geopolitical analysis lies the human cost of the war, a tragedy felt most acutely by the people of Ukraine. Millions have been displaced from their homes, forced to flee the fighting and seek safety elsewhere. Families have been torn apart, and countless lives have been lost. Despite the immense suffering, the Ukrainian people have shown remarkable resilience and determination. Citizens have taken up arms to defend their country, volunteers have stepped up to provide aid and support, and communities have come together in solidarity. The stories of ordinary Ukrainians demonstrating extraordinary courage and compassion in the face of adversity are a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human soul. The uncertain road ahead, diplomacy, resistance, and hope. As the war in Ukraine grinds on, the path to peace remains uncertain. Ceasefire talks have yielded limited progress, and fighting continues in various parts of the country. Ukraine, bolstered by military aid and financial support from Western allies, continues to put up fierce resistance against the Russian invasion. The international community grapples with how to respond to the crisis, balancing the need to support Ukraine with the desire to avoid further escalation. Sanctions imposed on Russia have had a significant impact on its economy, but their long-term effectiveness in altering Moscow's course remains to be seen. Despite the challenges, hope for a peaceful resolution endures. Diplomatic efforts, though challenging, continue with the aim of finding a negotiated settlement that respects Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The resilience of the Ukrainian people, coupled with the international community's condemnation of the invasion, offers a glimmer of hope that peace may eventually prevail. A call for peace and understanding. The war in Ukraine is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of conflict. It is a complex issue with a long and troubled history, one that cannot be easily untangled or resolved. As the world grapples with this crisis, it is essential to remember the human cost of war and to strive for peace through dialogue and diplomacy. Understanding the historical context, the key events that led to the conflict, and the perspectives of all parties involved is crucial for finding a lasting solution. The war in Ukraine is not just a regional conflict. It is a global issue that demands our attention, empathy, and a commitment to peace. The international community must continue to support diplomatic efforts, provide humanitarian aid to those affected by the conflict, and work towards a future where dialogue and diplomacy, not weapons and warfare, define international relations.